Senator Gilbert, Senator Tuberville, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. Lieutenant General, thank you for your service. I'd like to say this first. I was in Ukraine 6 months before this war started and talked to President Zelensky. They knew this was coming. They were putting troops on the border through Belarus, all through the Don, all over the place, building it up, knowing it was coming. We didn't do one thing. We said it was going to be a small incursion. That's what President Biden said. We're coming off Afghanistan. We didn't look very smart. What would we do different, General, now, in your eyes? Now we're doing it. We're waiting. It seems like we're one step behind in everything we're doing. What should we have done different at the beginning? Because it looks like we're going to be the defender of the free world. We need to learn from our mistakes, and we made huge mistakes at the beginning of this.
Yes, Senator, thanks for your question. As a former and retired military officer, I'm a little bit disappointed in the military and the intelligence community that either didn't relay this or didn't believe it as well. You know, recall, we had very senior officers say, one, that Ukraine would fall within 3 days of the invasion and tried to get President Zelensky a ride out of town. And that's when he made the comment, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition. You know, you can have a beer with that kind of guy. You know, the fact is we just didn't really believe it and we didn't look at it hard. I would really question our intelligence communities, all of them, and also the military, why their decision-making was so poor in foreseeing this. Most of us saw it. We saw the indicators. I'm a big believer in indicators and patterns, and the patterns and indicators were there. So I think it was a fault somewhere in our systems that we didn't convince ourselves that it was really going to happen. Part of it may have been a misunderstanding of President Putin himself, and they just didn't believe he would do it. I've actually heard commentators say, up until the day before the invasion, he wasn't going to do it. Yes, he was. And if you read Putin, and I had a fortune, when I was in the National Security Council, I brought Dr. Fiona Hill in on the NSC team. She came out of Brookings, and she's a very well-read person on Putin. And she says, when he says something, believe it. He's going to do it. Well, we didn't believe it.
Yeah, thank you. And now we're up to our ears in alligators. China looks like China's getting ready. And just a couple of yes/no questions for Dr. Stanton and General Kellogg. You know, let's talk about China's motivation. Do you think that Chinese weapons are going to further drag out this conflict? Dr. Stanton, yes or no?
Yes.
General?
No.
Do you think we need to increase weapons supplies to Ukraine to counter Chinese munitions? Dr. Stanton, since you said yes?
Yes.
Okay. If we're increasing our support to Ukraine, do you believe that that will slow down shipments to Taiwan in the future if we continue to send munitions to Ukraine? You don't think it will?
No.
All right. Ms. Mascott, at a hearing on February the 15th, this committee heard expert testimony that if the United States were to enter a war with China today, we would have just 2 weeks' worth of munitions. Our stockpiles would be out. Do you agree with this assessment?
I don't have enough information to make an assessment, I'm sorry.
Take a shot at it, General.
I do not agree with that assessment at all.
Okay, thank you. General Kellogg, do you have a clear sense of the overall U.S. strategy in Ukraine, and what does victory look like for Ukraine?
I do not have an overall view of what the current strategy in Ukraine is. I believe we should have one, and I think you have to put, end state, you have to put Russia's army at risk in Ukraine. Putin has to understand he's got two options, lose his army or leave. If his army loses and is defeated, he falls.
Can Ukrainians win it on their own?
No. Let me phrase it. They can win it on their own if we give them the equipment to do it.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most dangerous course of action for the United States when it comes to this conflict? What puts us in harm's way?
By doing what we're doing right now, because it is not disciplined. It is also not emphatic.
Okay. There was a poll out. You know, the Russian people believe, from a poll in Russia, that they're at war right now with the United States. The Russian people believe this. Do you think the American people think we're at war with Russia, General?
No, I do not, and that is because of the messaging.
Yeah. Dr. Stent?
No, I don't think so.
How concerned, General, you concerned about nuclear conflict? How concerned?
I think it has to be a consideration simply because it's in the Russian philosophy to use. They've got a large amount of what and I hate to use the term tactical nuclear weapons, and they believe in using it. And it's something we really don't have. And if it's in their philosophy to use it, if it gets pushed, he may use it. I'm hoping that there'll be smarter people would prevail and he would not use it, but you always have to understand the probability and possibility of it happening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator